Pokémon Sun and Moon is beginning to feel like a Russian nesting doll. Each time we delve deeper and attempt to discover more about the game, new ideas and theories come to the surface afterward. And so it is that we're back to offer a few corrections to things we reported in the past, while at the same time looking at a few new ideas and observations that you had to offer. Of course, be sure to watch our full analysis and its follow-up, as we'll be referring back to them constantly. Let's begin once again with the legendary Pokémon. We talked before about how markings appear on each of their foreheads when using their signature attacks, and how they resemble the symbols of the two opposing sides of Fire Emblem Fates. Well, it just so happened that a new TV spot was released in Japan for Sun and Moon using footage from their trailer, except one scene shows a much clearer look at the symbol on the Moon Pokemon's head, and it's very different from the Conquest symbol. The reason why the symbols seem so similar, as suggested by Flapping Potato on Twitter, is because the themes are so alike. It's a battle between a side representing the light and a side representing the darkness, so it's not that surprising. And Ryu Serpentine from Twitter has an intriguing theory on what the legendary Pokémon could be based on. There are two Slavic deities known as Belobog and Chernobog, with their names literally meaning White God and Black God respectively. Belobog is commonly associated with the sun and light, while Chernobog with darkness. Yet oddly, we were unable to find any depictions of Belobog, though Ryu Serpentine states that it is sometimes shown as a lion. The most famous depiction of Chernobog is from Fantasia, where he does indeed have bat-like wings. The question is whether this is an intentional inspiration of the developers. At the very least, we know that not all legendary Pokémon match with the legends and stories of the regions they're based in. So it's not that unusual to have a Slavic myth take place in a Hawaiian-inspired region. Moving on from the legendaries, one of the biggest theories on the starters actually came from PD Winall's video, where he discovered the possible second typing of Litten and Poplio, specifically ground and fighting respectively. But many people have correctly pointed out that the ground type is listed before the fire type, which changes things significantly. Instead of Litten becoming a fire and ground type, this points to Rowlet changing from grass and flying to grass and ground, Litten staying a pure fire type, and Poplio still becoming a water and fighting type. If Rowlet does become a ground type, it might be based on the burrowing owl, which has much longer legs than other owls. The starters were also tied into another theory, namely the lack of a battle circle beneath them when fighting. But Arthur McDowell on Twitter reminded us that those circles were missing in the opening fights of Pokemon X and Y as well. Because this is assured to be the first battle in Sun and Moon, it's probable that they'll only be missing during this fight. However, that's not an absolute guarantee, since X and Y didn't have the amount of extra details that this battle had either, namely the bystanders and the trainer staying on screen during the fight. One of the more common mistakes we made that many of you pointed out was in relation to the ring on Kukui's left hand. We had corrected ourselves that it should be on the right hand after a comment without correlating the information. It turns out that the hand is different depending on the country, but for both the United States and Japan, the wedding ring is indeed worn on the left hand. Whether or not this means Kukui is really married though, we still have no idea. A point of contention arose though when we stated that this could be the first region where two professors existed. However, we were incorrect because the 5th generation featured Professor Juniper and her father, Cedric Juniper, though he wasn't met at the same time as the main professor. Cedric was a retired researcher who mainly served as the way the player could upgrade their Pokédex. What's odd is although Hala may be retired like Cedric, he's still the one that gives the trainer their first Pokémon. Does this mean Kukui is relegated to handling the Pokédex, or does he serve another role? Continuing on, it seems the name Hoku is itself a bit of an Easter egg. Via, on Twitter, informed us that the name means Night of the Full Moon, or Star, in Hawaiian, which could be further evidence that the rival's name will be the same as this boy. And Hoku ties into another observation by Tasty Pie. We talked before how the names on the school's wall likely don't have any relation to the gym leaders, since Hoku's name is listed there as well. But Tasty Pie and several others noted that one of the names, Caitlin, is already a person from the games. Caitlin first appeared in Pokemon Platinum, Heart Gold, and Soul Silver as the head of the Battle Castle. She then reappeared in both Pokemon Black and White and their sequels as a member of the Elite Four. What's most interesting about this is that she could be talked to in a villa and claims to own villas all over the world. But in this one she states, "I used to own battle castles, then I became one of Unova's Elite Four. Will I be champion somewhere next? You never know." So could Caitlyn really reappear in Alola as the champion of the region? While this seems to be a bit of a stretch, it does provide potential context to two of the four names. What could Pablo and Ed possibly refer to though? After all, this real-world segment from the Japanese trailer isn't completely disconnected. Magus Andrus on Twitter pointed out that the milk cartons at the school lunch are printed with the Moo Moo Milk brand. More importantly, he highlighted the family's moving boxes. They're printed with the name Machoke Express Company, which is a reference to the Machoke moving services in the Pokémon games. But this is key because the Pokémon is referred to with its English name of Machoke rather than its Japanese one. That means the use of Caitlyn really could refer to the one from the games since, once again, the trailer is using the English names rather than the Japanese ones. Finally, Philip Markjaz and many others pointed out that the movement no longer seems to be grid-based like an X and Y. This likely ties into why the layout of Alola seems so different, with some areas no longer being flat and instead featuring varying geography. He wonders that this is why tall grass was not shown yet either, since it would not be modeled in a square-like grid. However, many have corrected us in stating that tall grass can be seen on the map. It's a darker shade than the typical grass, and we can see it between the beach and the road and breaking up the route to the north of the blue-roofed building. And that's everything else we could find in these Pokémon Sun and Moon gameplay trailers, along with correcting a few mistakes along the way. We want to thank everyone once again for their input as we strive to create an idea of what the 7th generation of Pokémon will be like. And if you want even more analysis, please check out our full analysis and its follow-up by clicking the link in the description. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe to Game Explained for more on Pokemon, including the June 2nd update and other things gaming.